Welcome everyone to another episode of A Message for Her.
That I think I give myself a lot of tough love, but there's still a lot of love. And there have been moments where, it's been tough to sort of look at a situation and not criticize myself.
Love also believes in listening to the other person. Love also believes in taking care of yourself, because we're not saying that just take the punches when you're in these places that are hard. Stay there because you're gonna learn, you're gonna do this. No. I am very excited. I'm always excited actually, because throughout this podcast I get to sit with some of my favorite people and I get to let you guys in on some of the beautiful conversations we've had, the conversation I wish I've had during that time that I was going through different phases of my life. And again, the intent today is for you to feel like you're listening to your friends and you get to have input. So we would love to hear from you. And today I get to have one of my favorite conversations that has changed my life with one of my good friends, Suchita, who's here with me. She's gonna introduce herself to me. She's Suchi, but she's also a powerhouse and a community builder. And today our conversation is gonna be centered around allowing yourself the shitty places. So, hey Suchi, everybody.
Hi Suchi. Hi Gina. And now introduce myself.
Yes,
okay.
This is it.
All right. Hello everyone. My name is Suchita or Suchi. And first of all, I'm so happy to be on the podcast here with my friend Gina today. And personally, I came to Canada 20 years ago. I am a mom of a beautiful 15-year-old girl.
Yes.
And I'm happily settled with my family here in Sudbury. And I work as a senior project manager with Laurentian University. And I'm also really, absolutely, genuinely in love with this community. So trying to build some community projects like Living Tapestry. So I'm just excited to be here and let's get into it.
Yes. No, she's beautiful and I love everything about you. And I love the project that you're going to be working on, which we're going to have you back to talk about that because you carry community at heart.
Yes.
So Such, before we get into this,
yes,
what does authenticity look like for you when it feels unresolved, when life itself feels unresolved and uncertain?
That's a really, really deep question. And Gina, you know me, we've talked about it so many times. But authenticity to me, especially when life is uncertain, to me, it's being sure of who you are as a person. Because by the end of the day, I think it's so important that you lean on yourself. And if you're so sure about yourself, then I think the landscape of uncertainty becomes just a little bit easier to navigate. And life is uncertain to begin with. We don't know what tomorrow holds for us.
2 hours from now.
2 hours from now. We have no idea. So you roll with the punches. And the way I think in my journey, just having the confidence and groundedness and just knowing who I am as a person kind of helps me just navigate all the bouncy curveballs that come my way.
I love that. So now, because now you talked about it helps when you just know who you are.
Yeah.
Which is like perfect. But then some people are like, oh my God, what does that even look like for me to say that I know who I am? And I know that for some of us, it's like a constant journey of like discovering you. Because sometimes it's hard to separate yourself from your family to find your own individuality in a group or even like in terms of friends, because sometimes it's easy to just fit in or like to just go with the flow.
Absolutely.
But then what does that look like to do that work, to identify like, okay, this is Suchita, this is what I like, this is the ground I stand on. And once I'm sure of all that is happening to me, I can always go back to that to see if whatever is happening that is uncertain, if I can identify with who I am, it's going to help me find a path.
Absolutely. I think we all have moments in life where it's before and after.
Yes.
Some either incidents or life events. And I think for me that was becoming a mom around, of course, 15 years ago. But authenticity, you're so right, it is in itself can be so unclear, and especially for myself, there was a point when I wanted to really live my life with intention.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I really set this whole journey of this path to self-discovery. And at that time, authenticity felt so remote, and it felt in itself really, I don't know what that means to me.
Yeah.
But you start with what you know about yourself. And what you know about yourself is maybe some values that you hold. And I grew up watching my dad, who is a man of principles and values. So I had somebody to look up to lean on to, and sort of like already had that going. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think authenticity in itself can look so unclear at a moment. But that's what makes it exciting too. I think I'm still discovering myself. And then 10 years from now, 20 years from, I think until I'm dead, I'll still be on the path of self-discovery.
And then the moment you stop, then you stop living, right?
Exactly.
And part of like discovering who you are so you can stay in those authentic places, I think it's spending time alone.
Yes.
That has been so powerful.
Yes.
Because sometimes we're afraid to sit with ourselves and our thoughts and actually search through to be like, okay, I went for dinner today with Switch. What was the highlight? Did I like it? How did that make me feel?
Yeah.
Because in those places, that's where you find like, oh, this is what I actually like, or this is who I am.
Yes.
In the middle of like everything else going on.
Absolutely.
So what does it mean to stay true to yourself? In shitty places, hard places, like super hard places, rather than reshaping yourself to get through them.
And again, like I feel like we've talked about it so many times.
We always do, and I was like, we have to bring it to everyone.
But I honestly believe that when you are in a very shitty place, first of all, it's very tough. It's uncomfortable and it's messy, right? But I think a fight that one like myself is like constantly not fighting, but my commitment to myself is to staying true to myself.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's just really so important to me. Because, and I say this with a caveat, because I think there's almost an understanding of so for example, if I encounter a setback or an obstacle, right?
Yeah.
It can either go one of the two ways. Either I'm like, yeah, I stand in my truth, I stand my ground, I refuse to change myself.
Yeah.
But then there's also an important piece of reflecting on how did I come to this point and what did I learn from this situation? And do I need to heal a part of myself? Do I need to grow in a certain aspect? I think that's really important. So I say this with a caveat that yes, I stay true to myself, but I'm not rigid because I believe in growth mindset. So I'm not going to be somebody who'll be like, no, this is it, this is me.
This is me, and
that's it. No.
And I find a lot of us do that. It's like, this is who I am.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
And
that doesn't really serve us. Like, it's not saying that, was not saying remove who you are, but then leave room to also learn.
Absolutely.
Because when we are in those hard places, it's easy sometimes it's easier to say like, I'm just gonna go with the flow so that I can get out of it, because sometimes it might be your values that are challenged. It could be, like things that are really close to you that you feel really strong about. But then sometimes if you say like, taking a step back and kind of reflecting to say, what role am I playing in this? Yes, absolutely. I believe that. I believe this. But then, okay, I want to see where is Suchi coming from? Absolutely. Because in those moments, then I can be able to learn from you and also add some of the things to my own tools, to my own authenticity, and still, it can still hold true. Yeah. It doesn't change you, but then it shapes you in like to be a better person. Absolutely. When you can do that. Absolutely. So I really, really like that, that you can say that you're not, don't be rigid in like, there's some things that are going to be building blocks, but nothing is meant. The only thing that's constant, I don't know where I got this because I'm going to not be able to remember the person. The only thing that's constant in our lives is change. And that's what I think that's, and I mean, even if we look at ourselves too, I'm not the same person as I was 5 years ago. And I'm not going to be the same 5 years from now, 2 years from now. And I think there's beauty in that. It's also not taking yourself too seriously, but it's also sometimes winning. And I know we've all been in situations where we want to be like, yeah, I'm gonna just be like revenging on people. But sometimes the best thing is to never change. Don't let
really shitty situations and places actually
Change
hit
you.
your core. And sometimes that's the fight you fight. And the reason is, again, like for me, living a life with intention is important.
Yeah.
And that's why, and it takes a lot of reflection, like you said.
And also knowing those things that ground you, right? Because you know,
Absolutely.
ultimately, at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
this is who I am. This is where I'm hoping to go. And you mentioned that you have like this growth mindset, which is like really great. Because sometimes when we're in those hard places, it's hard to sort through certain things.
Yeah.
So for some people, it's gonna look like journaling. It's gonna look like, you know, working through your thoughts that way. Some people, it looks like, you know, spending time alone and really reflecting, taking a walk. But when you get through it without changing who you are, you honor yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
That you're gonna be
Absolutely.
okay because you don't. The one thing you never have to do is betray yourself.
Yeah, show up for
Because there's like a difference between like, oh, this is who I am. It is what it is. I said what I said. That doesn't get you anywhere. But you can be like, you know what? I believe in love, and believing in love. Love also believes in listening to the other person. Love also believes in taking care of yourself, because we're not saying that just take the punches when you're in these places that are hard. Stay there because
Absolutely.
you know you're gonna learn. You're gonna do this. No, it looks like you choosing yourself is also love, and letting go of certain things that don't serve you is also love.
Right.
But then it's always gonna be rooted in having those anchors that are like, okay, I'm an honest person. I believe in humanity, in people first. So if you have those things, when you sort through these things, you're gonna kind of figure out like, how am I gonna come out?
Yeah.
In the other place, in the other side.
Yes. Maybe a struggle, but we make it through.
We make it through, right? And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, we talked about this. Oh my God, yeah. Because I feel like with me and you, even now, I was like, oh, the direction we're going, I like it. Because initially in my head, I was like, oh, we're probably gonna go this way. And I think that's the one thing that's so beautiful about like our friendship and like the conversations we have. Because initially we were sitting in a coffee shop and we're having another deep conversations about our life and how we're gonna navigate different stuff. And we're like, okay, we do have to allow ourselves like really hard places.
Yeah.
And that in that moment, now looking at that, what does that mean to you?
Well, I think hard places, when we talk about growth, we talk about grit, like anything, perseverance, we talk about anything. That all happens in messiness. It's a messy process. Growth is messy, and I think we need to not glorify it in a way that it just happens overnight or it looks really pretty. You do not look pretty while growing. You are not looking pretty when you are gritting your way through it. You are really dedicating yourself to, you know, committing to yourself or the persevere. Like, it looks messy and it feels messy, first of all. So I think when or I'll just speak about myself.
Yeah.
Of course, the messy places are really uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I also have an understanding that if you deny yourself being in that space, you are denying yourself the opportunity to grow and to be just better at being you. So I think it's a huge disservice. There is no escaping it. You may suppress it.
Yeah.
And like we were talking about it,
And
it may
pops
come
up.
out in different ways
Different ways,
in
and when you don't
yeah.
expect it.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's not healthy. So it's almost like, you know, I read this, it's a really beautiful analogy. It's like when you pray for rain, mud comes with it. You can't escape that.
Oh.
So it's like when we embrace the good and the amazing and the winning, with that also comes the places that are dark. So it's almost accepting that that's a part of the process. And I think a lot of beauty can happen in that darkness too, if you really, really decide to embrace it. And it's tough, it's not easy. But I'm also really blessed because I have people around me who hold my hand in that shitty place and they're like, it's okay, you got this. Like, for example, yourself, like I lean on you so much. I have beautiful family, I have beautiful friends. So it's and how blessed am I? And you know, so it makes embracing darkness and crappy places
a little bit easier. And like even now looking at like what we're doing right now for somebody who's watching, for some you might have somebody that you're like, okay, I can really call this girlfriend and we can be able to work through it. But for some that you're like, okay, I'm not really, I don't really have people I can trust. This is us, and now we are your friends.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are. But then when we talk about like allowing ourselves like the shitty place, I always say like one of the things that I learned is that with anything that's tough, take the time to sit there and process it. Because either it's hurt from like relationships. Sometimes it might be quick to say, oh yeah, whatever, like me and Suchi, I don't care. Like I'm gonna move on now. I'll just lean on all the other friends that I have. But I don't take time to sit with me. I don't necessarily have to solve it with Suchi because emotions might be really high and everybody's trying to figure out their place in that whole thing because everybody feels right in that moment. So it's easy to just say, you know what, well, I'm done with Suchi. But then in those moments, give yourself time to say, I'm gonna sit here and figure out what role did I play. Yes, I'm feeling hurt, and it hurts so much that like sometimes you want out by like finding other friends or like by just saying, hey, let's just not worry about it, like let's just move on.
Shove it under
But then it doesn't save anyone. So it will hurt. You will get tempted to say like, I don't really want to do the work because the work sometimes just look like you struggling. Just I miss that person, I miss this, but then also understanding that this happened because of this. So now I have to work on this, whatever this is looks like for you.
Absolutely.
And when you come out, sometimes allowing those yourself like those, you know, I always say it's like a timeline thing. And the one thing I never want to do is that we don't want to normalize. Nothing is ever normal, but then it's just like we have to learn how to navigate life in the best way that we can. And one of the best like advice that I think I've shared this with Suchi before, that when I had struggles, like one of my hardest places was when like I had like a miscarriage and I'm like, oh my god, it sucks. And then, you know, you at that point it's not something you plan for. It's not something that you're like, oh, I'm gonna figure it out. No, it's just like, this is shitty. What am I gonna do now? This sucks because now I had this hope and all these things happening. It could have looked like I wake up and I go to work tomorrow. And then that way like it's a distraction and I'm gone. But then it was gonna catch up with me at some point. But then fortunately I had somebody in my life who like sat with me and was able to say, hey, listen, being in shitty places, being in places where it hurts beyond where you can even comprehend or you can even be ready for, is only for a moment. But also it is the capability of sucking you in and then you can never find your way back. But also you can't like run away from it and just find a distraction and you start doing other things. Allow yourself the time to say, hey, I am hurt, I am struggling, and I'm just gonna sit with this. I feel like crying, so I'm gonna sit there and cry. And I'm gonna, as much as like this sounds like it's so unconventional to say like, you know what, I'm allowing myself 10 days. Like I'm taking 2 weeks off work. I'm gonna be in pajamas, bathroom, kitchen, couch. Like that's just the rotation. And cry through it, whatever emotions that needs to come out. And also having that safe space of either some people that are like gonna be comfortable enough to sit with you in those moments where it's like, Switch, I don't know what to do for you, but I'm here. Right? And that helps. But then if there's nothing, TV, like do whatever it takes. But then after those 10 days, we're not saying that it's gonna be gone. No, you decide. I am gonna re-engage the world. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna see. I'm gonna start wherever I am. But then at least you took time to process, because the hard places also allow you to now like navigate the not so easy spaces, but you kind of get to reintegrate into you know, community.
Absolutely.
Okay, so how do you personally resist the urge to rush clarity or meaning when things feel uncomfortable?
So I actually been reflecting on this so much. One analogy that I'll give is, and the way it makes sense to me. So you know, when you touch something really hot, whether it be iron or like, you know, just a hot pot or something, and you, before you even know it burns, you just move your hand, right?
Yes, that you get like a sensation.
Exactly. And then
yes,
right? So to me, that's exactly how I sort of innately feel when I'm in a really crappy situation.
Okay.
My first instinct is to remove myself, and I've really reflected on this. Why? It's because I feel really unsafe. My nervous system screams at me that you're not safe. You need to get out of this situation now. And I think over time, a part of the process has been really reminding myself that it's okay and I'm safe, because that's what it becomes, almost like a survival instinct.
Yes.
Right? It's like, and that's where my old patterns were that I would really jump to making the situation right, fixing it, finding clarity instead of going with the flow. So I've had to, and I'm still working on it. It's not that I'm really developed a skill. It still comes to me that way, that immediately. But the first thing that I do is like acknowledge it, that yes, I'm running to make myself feel safe, and my nervous system is out of bonkers and it's dysfunctional, it's not balanced. And I think I give myself the space and room, if I can, in a situation. Sometimes it's all happening really fast. But if I can, I'll take a pause, acknowledge it, that I'm experiencing this.
Yeah.
And then I really reflect on what's in my control and what's not in my control. And that exercise really helps me, because, and sometimes life it is what it is. Situations cannot be controlled. Like you shared your story with the miscarriage, right? Like there's only sometimes situations where we just don't have control over. There's nothing you
could have done.
Right?
Yeah.
And yet we are just left to deal with it, right? So in those cases, I think my focus immediately turns to the things that I can control and focus on. And then I throw myself in that. And then having faith and trust that it will work out. I think it's just something that I've had to seriously lean on over time. And it does work out. It takes time. But, good days don't last, bad days don't last. Either. They just don't last. I think it's just, so it's been a lot of, no, it's okay. Reminding myself that I'm safe and it's going to be okay. You're okay. And then trying to, and sometimes the things that I can control, like you said, is just go for a walk. Yeah. Journal, cry, eat, emotional eat. That's okay. Ugly cry if you need to. And that's okay. But then things become clear. As you're like clearing your headspace, your next step becomes clear. And that's connected to being authentic to yourself. So if you know what your intention is and all of that stuff, I think it becomes clear. And then you just work on what you can focus on. And what's in your control, and you just get that going, and then one
foot in front of the other. Sometimes that's all it is. Like I can't make a plan for 10 days. I can't do it. I just have to figure out what I'm doing by dinner. Yeah. And sometimes that's good enough. So there was so much that you said, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to so we are in this culture, right, where it's like, oh, there's no time switch for you to be like sad, like we gotta
just get on
like,
with
right?
It, yeah.
So that's why sometimes we don't allow ourselves those places, because it's like, I'm wasting time. Like I need to figure out the next move. Like I need to start planning the next event. Like you're constantly having to do. So when you get those moments where it's like, it's unclear. Tomorrow doesn't look like it's like, I don't know what it looks like. I feel like I'm wasting time. Sometimes it's okay to just be.
Yeah.
Like whatever that looks like, just being. Like, and when you're being, you don't feel the need to be doing anything, and sit in those places where sometimes it feels stagnant. It feels like you're wasting time.
Yeah.
But then sometimes in those places where you're not doing anything, you're actually doing something.
Yes.
When you stop.
Absolutely.
Because it's like you have to feel it. And then I'm like, this word is gonna keep coming constantly. Grace.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Because then in those moments, there's some days where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go for that walk.
Yeah.
Today I'm really gonna journal and really talk about my thoughts and how I'm feeling.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some days it's just like, I can't. Like I feel like the world is crashing, and it's okay. It's about learning that in every season, in every stage, it's okay for us to go through these things. And lately I've been watching this show. It's on Apple, but I forget the name of it now. But it's about therapy.
Okay.
I don't know now. But it says Harrison Ford.
Okay.
So then he's talking to this little girl who was doing like therapy with him for a while, and then I guess he gets like a moment for himself because he's aging, and she's like, I want to do this forever, and then he kind of like hands it over to another person.
Okay.
But then during that whole conversation, he says, when we say that. It might not even be him. Like, we should probably leave that show reference. But the point, the moral of this story, is that he says that when we say it's gonna be okay, I'm not saying Switch is gonna be like great.
Right.
It's gonna be okay. Is that it's gonna work out the way it's supposed to work out.
Yes. Yes.
So sometimes to us it might not be the desired outcome.
Yeah, absolutely.
But then you always have to believe it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to work out how it's supposed to work out.
Absolutely. That's
I loved it. I was like, this is so profound because sometimes when people are saying to me, it's gonna be okay, I'm so annoyed because I'm like, what do you mean? You don't know that I'm gonna be okay. Yeah. But then if you look at it with those lenses of like, you know what? Sometimes what that means is that the world is gonna work out, the universe is gonna work out the way it's gonna work out.
Absolutely.
It might not be in your favor, but it's okay.
And perspective is so important. And being grateful for what you have is so important. And I think that's where your previous journey can also be that beacon in that darkness, is looking how far you've come as an individual. And maybe having instances where you didn't have the desired outcome and you were redirected on a different path, and how it actually led to maybe meeting new people who meant so much to you, and how that much of that was a protection. So I think there is a lot in perspective taking, grace. When people just refuse to give you grace, I think it's so important that you give yourself so much grace
of it
in life.
Because some people are not in your shoes.
No,
they are not having the conversations you're having. And as you say that, like that perspective shift, where sometimes which like if we both were to start reflecting on it right now, you might look back at a period where you're like, oh my god, like I thought it was gonna work out, and like I can't believe that my life pivoted this way because I didn't want that. Like right when I was thinking about my life, planning it, I wanted it a certain way. Then when you look back after that pivot that was not desirable for you when it was meant like to work out, then you're like, oh my god, that's how I met Susan, Peter, and everybody else. So like in those moments, it's very important to just remember that sometimes those unexpected outcomes are actually meant for your good.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Such, this is one of my favorite. I don't know, because I feel like the answer you're gonna give is gonna actually just help me too.
Okay.
So how has befriending yourself changed the way you move through difficult or transitional seasons?
Yes. Self-love.
Yes.
I call it radical self-love.
Radical self-love. You've talked about it so many times. So I'm like, no, this is my favorite one because I have to take mental notes and real notes.
No, I think it's, in my journey, I think it has been such an integral part of, everything who I am as a person today. Again, going back to the before and after, and as any new parent, when Bunny was born, I was also very overwhelmed, just like any other new mom. But I think it was just really important to me that I wanted her to really love herself. And in order to teach her that, I was like, okay, I need to start loving myself first. But now reflecting back and where I stand with that now is, so for example, when I say my values are compassion, empathy, kindness, giving grace, and if I'm not doing that for myself, then I'm the biggest hypocrite.
You can't give it to anyone else.
I cannot give it to anyone else. Then that becomes performance and people pleasing. To me, that's not authentic. It's the opposite of authentic. And I really, really mean when I say this, that I think I give myself a lot of tough love, but there's still a lot of love. And there have been moments where, it's been tough to sort of look at a situation and not criticize myself. But then again, growth mindset comes in and it's like, okay, it's okay. By the end of the day, you're a human. Congratulations, you messed up. It's okay to mess up. It is okay to mess up. It's okay, you messed up. Now what? You're gonna learn something and you're gonna move forward.
Yes.
Right? And then having people around yourself when you're like really in this rabbit hole of self-loathing. Yeah. Again, and people who hold your hand and say, no, chin up.
Yes.
And it's really another part of this coin or this picture is the way I identify myself. I am not my mistakes. I'm so much more than that.
Oh, that is.
And I'm not my wins either.
And I'm not yesterday.
So it's really, really, I think to me, self-love really encompasses all of that. That yes, I am giving myself enough love, but I also, it's a promise to myself by not abandoning myself. And it's like, okay, yeah, you're gonna get up and get going. It's okay. They keep moving forward. And then also giving myself the understanding of the mistakes that I've made, and yes, we're gonna correct it and we're gonna keep moving forward, because what are we gonna do? Just sit down? That's not an option. So we have to move on. But I think self-love just makes it that much more, I guess, bearable for you. When you show up for yourself, the way I would show up for Ishmeet or for Bani or for you.
Yeah.
Right? And then I'm really committed to showing up for myself.
Because there was something I was going to say, that you did say that to me, that like in those moments what you usually do is that, like, okay, you're being so self-critical and all these things and not showing yourself compassionate, and then you have to ask yourself, in these moments, what would I tell Suchi?
Yes.
If it was Suchi, like really struggling,
yes, that's true.
what do I say to her?
I actually write it on.
Right, and that is very helpful in those moments of like going through rough spaces. Absolutely. And being your own friend and being able to stay in those moments, but also like help you like come out on the other side.
100%. And I feel like there are a few things that I'm very sure of, and I know that I'm a really good friend. Out of and I'm friend first, Dishmeet, with Bani, like all the people that I love. Yeah. I know I'm a good friend. And this is like 10 years ago, I was like, crap, I don't think I'm a good friend to myself. So that's what I would do. It was an exercise that I started doing, is like I would write everything, self-loathing, the criticism, in a journal, and then I'd like pause. And I'll think, your friend just told you all this, so write a note to self. And that's when I would just switch the gear.
So then you switch the gear to the friend who's like, no, you're amazing. Do you see how you showed up here? Do you see this? And it's very like helpful.
Yeah, it is. It has been. I still do that exercise. Which is silly in a way, but I think it just helps me in many ways.
So, as we're coming to a close.
Yes.
How do you know when it's time to gently re-engage with life again? Even if clarity hasn't fully arrived, going back to that place where it's like, okay, I'm in a shitty place, I'm really going through it. So how do you know when it's time to gently and not shove yourself, re-engage life, even if clarity hasn't fully arrived?
I think, and it's self-awareness is one big piece, and over time, one pattern that I've really recognized in myself, and maybe people relate to it or not, is that I tend to isolate myself. When something goes wrong, my first tendency to do, so I'll isolate myself, but then I know that I need that space to do a lot of reflection, because I do reflect a lot, even if it is like 15 minutes in a day. That is needed, but there's also an unhealthier way. It's healthy and then it's not, because that isolation becomes comfortable, and then it's like, that's not okay. And then when that pattern emerges, it's like, okay, now you're just in this cycle. You need to really get yourself out of this. You've done all the, like, now you're just being comfortable. And that happens too. I think the way I would approach this is, it's again, like the self-awareness of when you are done with when the purpose of isolation has been completed. Like being aware of, okay, now we're done. Now it's time to kind of like get out of your hole a little bit.
You've honored yourself to give yourself that alone time to do the work.
Get out.
And now it's like, okay, but also it's almost like honoring the relations you have.
Yes.
Because yes, they can love you and understand that Suchi needs like a minute because she's a reflector. She processes stuff. But then for them, sometimes if it goes beyond, it's like, we miss you, how can we help you? Because now it's like, how can we be there for you? How do I show up for you?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So I think it's a good balance of honoring yourself, honoring your process, but also reminding yourself, okay, I do have a whole world of people that do love me.
Absolutely.
And then begin to just slowly like come out of whatever it is
there.
And like, one conversation at a time.
Exactly.
Or one high at a time. Hey, like it's been a minute.
Yeah, absolutely. And then there's nothing wrong with doing it with people you know for sure give you the safe space. Because, of course, especially when you've had a setback, I think it takes time to again regain your footing, and that's okay. And I think again I'm really blessed because I have a number of people who authentically give me a very safe space. So you just kind of, and that's what.
And knowing that even as somebody who is like, oh, I need my time, I need this, just in knowing that I do have people around me that I do feel safe enough to say, hey, like, so when I was gone, this was happening to me.
Yeah.
And then they hold a space. They are not going to be like, I called you and this. So it's a blessing in itself.
Oh, absolutely.
And then now, Suj, you're going to have to talk to her. If you were to leave her with one message today, what would that be?
Oh my God. All right. I would say my message for her would be to love yourself, take it easy, and just do what you love to do and take care of yourself.
Thank you, Suj.
Thank you, Gina.
Thank you so much for sitting with me throughout this conversation. I hope you learn to give yourself a little bit of more grace. I hope you honor yourself. You allow yourself those hard places, not as a form of punishment, but as a form of getting to know yourself a little bit more. And also allowing yourself to process those moments, those hard feelings, and also giving yourself time, but knowing that you gently have to return to your life and not be so rigid on what that looks like or what that looks like for everyone, because you're a different human being. I am so glad that you sat with us. Till next time, I'm Gina.
If I could fly